Hello everyone and welcome back to Brickcats. Today I am finally featuring the Bad Batch Marauder Shuttle by 2bricks Official. I have had this model built for several months and for a number of reasons, none of them good, I procrastinated on this review until now. As always, please consider leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, leaving a comment, or supporting what I do in any other way you see fit. I greatly appreciate it, and thank you for choosing to spend some of your time with me today. As a quick administrative note, this model is so large that I had to get a little creative with a way to record this review, so I apologize in advance if some of the camera angles are odd. I've got the widest angle on my iPhone, but the camera is physically close to the model so I can move it around. I also bought myself a fancy wireless microphone for these reviews as I'm not using my normal desk setup. But as always, when I switch microphones or headsets, the settings are always different, so I might sound a little funny. I appreciate your feedback on those aspects of this review, both positive or negative, if you're willing to share them, and thank you very much in advance if you do. The Marauder made its first appearance in the Bad Batch episode of Clone Wars Season 7. Produced by Cygnus Spaceworks, the Marauder is a modified Omicron-class attack shuttle that shares the folding wing design language of the GNU and Theta-class shuttles from the prequel era, the Delta and the Lambda-class shuttles from the original trilogy era, and the Upsilon class from the sequel era. Without substitutions for the ship and stand, Bricklink returned 5 stores and $239 without shipping and tax, or about $284 with shipping and tax. In my reviews, I offer my opinions on aesthetics and model features, parts issues you might want to look out for, the build experience, the model's integrity, and I close out with my overall impression and pricing information in the conclusion. If you're watching this review, I assume you have bought the instructions or are interested in buying them. I also assume a basic level of familiarity with Bricklink's ordering system and LEGO nomenclature. I only use genuine LEGO bricks and I always purchase the instructions. And I create these reviews for my own personal enjoyment and in the hopes that my experience will make yours more enjoyable and or less expensive. As you can tell, this model is gigantic at about 19.5 inches front to back, 28 inches from wingtip to wingtip with the wings in the flight position, and about 16.75 inches rather from the bottom of the wings to the top fin with the wings in flight position. The stand adds an inch or about 2.5 centimeters, which gives the wing some clearance from the surface you're displaying it on. There's about an inch or 2.5 centimeters there. And with the wings folded up, the shuttle is about 13.5 inches tall and around 7.75 inches wide. And the shuttle does have a set of fixed landing gear, so you can sit this one on a flat surface without the stand if you want to. I'll show the landing gear in a little bit here. The nose cone is shaped very well with a series of wedges and curved slopes, and the cockpit windows are nicely angled that give the cockpit its signature kind of bird-like look. The rest of the front section of the fuselage mixes dark bluish gray and sand blue effectively, and while I don't think the color is as cut and dry as many others do, I do agree with 2bricks' choice of making the shuttle predominantly dark bluish gray. Whatever material the shuttle is made out of in universe, it definitely has some interesting qualities that cause it to look convincingly one way or the other depending on how the light hits it. And of course, LEGO's official model is mostly sand blue. These 3 little antennae pieces are included on the top of the cockpit here, and the cockpit actually lifts off very easily to reveal the interior. And you can kind of see there are all sorts of controls and control panels in there. The canonically correct red seats. And of course there is room for figures to sit and stand inside the cockpit. There is a nicely integrated and functional ramp in the correct position. And these structures back here, just behind the cockpit, I'm not sure exactly what their in-universe function is, but they're shaped very well with the dish pieces and the black tile on top of the stud. The main cannons, along with some small but effective greebling on the front of this section right here. A little difficult to see because it's black and also kind of in the shadow. Maybe this side's a little easier. Here, very well done. The main part of the fuselage, again, opens up to reveal more of the interior, and it actually opens up on both sides. Like so. A little tough to get a good camera angle here, but you can see there's the swiveling red seat, some more control panels. These are the lockdown seats that passengers can get in if it's going to be a bumpy ride. You have Gonki. Well, I guess he fell off his feet there for something. And also you've got Omega's room back here, which also doubles as the gunnery station, the rear turret gunner. And there's some lights, and then you can kind of just see the brown, but there's a minifigure cape used for the curtain. For the gunnery station, there's no transparent section, so you can't actually see the gunner doing his or her thing back here, which is understandable. There's not really a great way to do that and still maintain the structural integrity of this section. And the passenger compartment also comes with this overhead storage bin, which is a nice touch. I don't find this particularly useful, although I guess I do have some helmets stored in there. But it's there. You can hold weapons and things like that. And speaking of weapons, I don't have this fully kitted out, but you can see those clips there. You can store blasters or whatever. The main section in general right here is still dark bluish gray, as you can see, and this is one of the only areas of the model in which I think that the color selection or coloring of the fuselage could be, or really any part of the ship, could be a little different. Some added dark tan or sand blue here around the studs, or even if you replace one of these with a 4x4 plate to add some additional color, I think would be good, but not necessarily... well, I mean, clearly it looks fine, but it's the same on both sides. And I guess the best way to look at this is that you've got some color detailing up here and down here, but nothing right in the middle here. So, you know, it's an easy thing to fix on your own if you've got spare pieces, but the rest of the ship is colored so well that I was just a little surprised that this one section was a little plainer than the rest. The top fin is brick built, and the shaping is pretty much spot on as far as I can tell. Again, I am a big fan of the sand blue highlights scattered throughout here, and my only thought here was that, where possible, I think there should be some more asymmetry, as the sand blue is mirrored on both sides exactly. So this is, again, a very small thing and easy to fix on your own if you want, but I think that it's more realistic if the two sides of the fins were a little different, just because battle damage or wear and tear tends not to happen symmetrically. Now, the wings are what makes this model, in my opinion, and you really don't appreciate how big this thing actually is until you put the wings on the model. They're plate built. There's 2 or 3 layers of plates in most places, with the thickness extending to 4 with these tiles, the tile bands. So there are a fair amount of studs showing, and I'll show you the underside, which is obviously mostly anti-studs. This look doesn't bother me, and I think that brick-built wings at this scale will be a lot less stable, and it would also be a lot more difficult to add some of the details that 2bricks has included in them. The wings do fold up and down manually. The mechanism uses these Technic lift arms, Technic joints that LEGO uses in things like the AT-AT legs, and they lock in place using these small sections here, which is just a 1x2 curve slope on a plate. So there is some ratcheting motion. And then here you get a good look at the underside of the wing. So it is nice that the color detailing continues, and the general structural shape of the wing is outlined on both sides and underneath here. The wing mechanism does leave a substantial gap right here, and this is necessary because if you have a piece covering up this gap, the wings can't fold up. But my recommendation, if you actually want to leave this in flight mode for display, and honestly that's the best way you can display it, this is 2 studs wide and 12 studs long, so if you want to buy 2 of the new 2x6 tiles in dark bluish gray, I think that covers up the gap very nicely, and of course you can do the same on the other side, so you need 4. You won't be able to move the wings into landing position with those tiles on there, or any other piece. I guess this could be a 2x12 plate, or any combination thereof if you wanted to add some color in there too. And the ability to fold up the wings also means sacrificing really any good way to put in the actuator fins that are visible on the wings in the show. And I think they would run across right where this gap is, but I also think that these 4 curved slopes maybe partially represent those. Visually, however, the wings look great as you'd expect, and the shape is also spot on. The coloring on either wing is slightly asymmetric. You can see this one's got some more dark tan, and due to the plate construction, the wings are also very solid. The back of the shuttle has the rear turret and the red gunner station, and although like I mentioned before, this is brick built and you can't actually see a figure or put a figure inside here, the back turret has some range of motion. The engine flaps are included. A little more on those later, but the engines are also, if I can pick this up off the stand. The engines also have my favorite little detail in this model. It's a little difficult to see, but you can kind of see that some of these are trans light blue and some of them are trans medium blue cheese slopes. So it gives the engines just a slight variation. Definitely doesn't cost much more, if anything, and it kind of adds some more depth to the engine thrusters there. So I thought that was pretty cool. The flaps have a range of motion to put them in whatever position you want them in. I did find it a bit odd that part number 2540, that is the plate modified 1x2 with bar handle on side, free ends, was used here instead of part 48336. And that's the plate modified 1x2 with bar on side, closed ends. Using part 25440 here means that the flaps are shifted like half a stud in either direction. So you can see that this doesn't quite line up with the thrusters here with the open-ended modified plate. Whereas over here, I did switch them out because I had 2 of these, and you can see that it lines up just right. So I'm not sure what the reasoning was behind choosing part 2540. I'm sure there was a good one, but in my opinion, if you wanted to have these flaps centered, just replace 8 of those with 8 of part 48336, and then you can have them centered. The underside of the shuttle is mostly anti-studs, and there's nothing too noteworthy here aside from the landing skids, which don't retract. I think this is perfectly fine as they integrate very nicely with the stand anyways, and to make them retract or removable would likely add some structural instability that you definitely wouldn't want with a model of this size and heft. So that landing gear allows the shuttle to sit down very nicely. It's very sturdy. The stand is a very sturdy Technic column that slots into the hole on the other side of the fighter, the shuttle rather, and these 2 Technic lift arms bracket the front landing skid. It has enough footprint to hold the shuttle very securely, and it's not going to tip over due to anything but the most purposeful bumps. There are certainly some opportunities to tile over some of the studs on the bottom here. It's a fairly large area to cover, honestly, and it's also an odd number of studs wide. So you'll need combinations of 3 and 4 stud tiles in most cases. And I definitely recommend the stand. The stand instructions and parts list are available for free. I definitely recommend the stand because the shuttle looks best and is very impressive in flight mode. So you're going to want and need the stand to do that. The Marauder calls for 415 elements and 2,189 pieces, which is for the shuttle only. The stand requires 37 elements and 199 pieces. The stand is pretty straightforward, so I only have one recommendation on a part substitution for that, but it's included with the shuttle as well, so I'll skip that for now. The shuttle parts list IO file threw a validation error at me due to part 40344, which should be changed to part 32531 in light bluish gray. So I used the rebrickable inventory to generate a parts list. The rebrickable inventory unfortunately was missing a red 2x2 turntable base, part 3680, and the 2x2 turntable top, part 3679, and that's for the seat in the middle section here. And I let 2bricks know about these, and he's going to update the IO file and the rebrickable inventory in the near future. I understand he has been fairly busy with his actual job, so I imagine that will come soon. This is I'm recording this at the end of August 2022. There are a number of pieces that are hidden in the final build, and they are marked in blue, red, and orange in the parts list. If you're using your existing spares inventory, this can potentially cause some confusion, because some of the red parts should actually be red, while others are actually hidden. All of the blue and orange parts are hidden in the final build, but I would have preferred all of the hidden pieces to be marked in the same color that isn't used elsewhere in the model at all, maybe yellow or purple or something like that. I will say the specified pieces and colors aren't expensive in the first place either, so the additional cost is likely minimal, and the stores likely to come up in the Bricklink algorithm are probably going to have the normal sized bricks and plates that end up hidden in the final build anyway. But if you are looking to make maximum use of your spares bin, the following red parts are the ones that can actually be any color, while all the other ones should actually be red. The sticker sheet for the Vulture Droid set 7501 is specified, but at the time of recording there's only one available in the US, and the sticker sheet's like $50. Thankfully these stickers don't seem to add much. I think you only use the 2 of them on the nose cone here, but in my opinion this should be removed from your parts list entirely. The Technic Pin 3L part 6558 are specified in blue, but black will work just fine, and in some cases may even be better, especially in the stand and these wing connections that are right here and here on both the front and back of the shuttle. Black tends to be more expensive as these pins are only produced in blue in 2022, but occasionally you find a store that's selling like a bunch of them for really cheap, and those are worth picking up, especially for other mocks, because I find that blue usually unfortunately, is rather visible. The lone Technic Axle 2L notched part 32062 is specified in red, but black works just as well. Similarly, the lone Technic Pin 3/4 part 32002 specified in tan will work just as well in the common dark bluish gray or dark gray. There are a grand total of 7 instrument panel slope 30s, 2 of part 85984 PB077, and 5 of part 85984 PB127. These are more or less interchangeable with each other, but you can also substitute any appropriate Star Wars instrument panel or anything that looks like it would fit, and those are not going to detract from the overall look. Or if you're not interested in the interior, you can leave these out entirely. The minifigure Cape Cloth side straight in dark brown part 65384 was the only part that was consistently expensive in my algorithm results, and usually was about $1.50. This is the curtain for Omego's room at the back here, and while I do think it's worth it, if you're not interested in the interior, you can leave this off. None of the other colors, black, dark bluish gray, or olive green, are reliably less expensive anyway, and brown is the most canon accurate. Other parts you don't need if you aren't interested in the interior are as follows. The slope curved 2x1 by 1 1/3 with recessed stud in sand blue part 6091 randomly popped up as very expensive a couple of times when I ran the algorithm. This is a 10-cent piece, not $2.50, and you should always look for outliers like this when the algorithm returns your results. So it's worth sorting each cart by price to make sure a seller hasn't fat-fingered the price or purposely marked them up. And these slopes are not too many, but they're like right here. The 4x6 and 4x4 modified tiles with studs on edge, parts 6179 and 6180 in dark bluish gray, also seem to be more expensive from one seller to another, with prices ranging from about 20 cents on the low end and over $1 each on the high end. These are replaceable in whole or in part with the 4x6 and 4x4 plates at the cost of some extra studs if you're okay with that look. I think that in most cases the tiles look really nice, but again, if it comes down to paying $2 or $1 for this one tile versus 10 cents for the 4x4 plate, I would probably go with the 4x4 plate. And finally, here is the list of pieces I believe are best purchased directly from LEGO. In general, the more you purchase from LEGO, the better off you are for large models such as this one. With LEGO Pick-a-Brick, if you spend more than $14 on bestsellers, the $3.50 handling fee is waived. If you spend more than $14 on Pick-a-Brick standard pieces, the $7 handling fee is waived. And note that your order will automatically be divided between bestsellers and standard pieces, and you have to meet the $14 threshold in each category. And on top of that, if your order is over $35 total, you will get free shipping. But overall, there are not any super rare or expensive pieces in this model, and 2bricks generally does us all a huge favor by sticking to pieces that are readily available either on Bricklink or directly from LEGO. And this is true for basically all of the models that I've built so far, so this is quite wallet friendly for the size of model you get, in my opinion. The Marauder instructions contain 959 steps, and each part or subassembly you add in each step is outlined in red. In general, you are only adding 2 or 3 pieces in a given step, so while there are a lot of steps, the pacing didn't feel too slow or tedious for me. The build is very straightforward in terms of techniques. In my opinion, this model is accessible to pretty much all levels of builders, especially those who have built larger official sets. And as usual with 2bricks, the instructions are very good. I did not come across any viewing angle or sequencing issues in the entire build. One aspect of the build I want to highlight, it's not really a build experience thing, but it was interesting to see how 2bricks worked around the challenge of odd number dimensions. And what I mean by that is that in numerous places he's working with 5, 7, and 9 stud wide connections. And this is not the easiest thing to do and have it come out at looking as good as it does. So like this section is an odd number, there's an odd number width on the stand, and if you've ever worked with 7s and 9s, there is a 1x5 plate now, which is totally weird when you find it in your spares bin. But you have to do things like put a 4 wide plate here and then a 3 wide plate here, and then switch it around, so a 3 wide plate here and a 4 wide plate here, and then secure it all somehow in the middle so it's sturdy. But 2bricks does a really good job with that, and this is basically all throughout the model, so it's really impressive to see that. The stand instructions have 63 steps, and in general it's also quite straightforward. The sheer number of Technic pins and connectors in the stand, and the fact that it's all black, make that slightly more tedious to follow, I guess. I won't say challenging, it's kind of just the nature of a kind of complicated Technic build than anything else. Given the size and weight of this model, which comes in at just over 4 pounds or about 1.8 kilograms, you pretty much need 2 hands to move the shovel around. There's not really a way to securely or comfortably hold this with one hand, and I would not try and lift this model up by the top fin, otherwise it will probably come apart. Like I mentioned earlier, the wings hinge and lock into place with these assemblies here. These are stronger than they might look, as, like I said, they're reinforced from the bottom, but I do wonder if these things will start to weaken over time if you leave the wings in the flight position. And if you force this wing down, for whatever reason, I think these would give out eventually, or maybe something would crack. I will just mention that I think the wing angle is basically perfect for the Bad Batch show, but it's interesting to see the difference between the wing angle in the Bad Batch show and the wing angle in Clone Wars Season 7. In Clone Wars Season 7, these wings are much more angled downward, so it's not necessarily a straight enough line, or a straight line for the wings there. So I'll put up a picture and show the difference, but I just thought that was interesting. And again, since I'm behind the camera, this is actually quite difficult to hold with one hand. I don't recommend doing this. So I guess I lied. There are ways to hold it with one hand, but it's pretty heavy, and with my arm extended like this is not comfortable by any means. But the good news is there's not really anything that's truly fragile in this model. Some of the extremities, like the cannons here, can move, or something like the wingtip cannons over here. This lightsaber piece can fall out pretty easily, but you know that going in, it's not going to surprise you. It's not like you're going to pick this up with or buy a certain piece and everything's going to fall apart. It's just very sturdy. It's just a little heavy. The rattling you can hear, that's just the helmets I have inside there. But you can see that holding this from the back is kind of challenging because it's so wide. So I guess you can do it, but I'm a little uncomfortable doing that. Again, just because of the weight. So maybe the best way to hold it with one hand is just with it underneath. This feels okay, and you can do some swishing, but again, it's so large that at least close to the floor here, maybe not so much. But yeah, overall, very solid model. Again, 2bricks does an amazing job creating solid mocks for us to play with, should we choose. And I think this model would hold up to a little more than casual play. Like, I wouldn't be too worried about giving this to maybe like a 6 or 7-year-old to play with, if they were interested. Everything here is very accessible. The play features are really well done. They're not any less sturdy than what you'd find on an official set. And I think that if anything did fall apart, it would be pretty easy to put back together. This is easily the best minifigure-ish scale Marauder I know of, and it's pretty hard to see where the model, or really any other model, could significantly improve on this in a major way. This is especially true given the comparatively low cost of the model, since it uses so many common or easily attainable elements. It's difficult for me to get behind any meaningful criticism of this model, but if pressed, I would say that the build experience is straightforward but not flashy. There weren't any connections or assembly methods that really wowed me, and that's just fine. The result is what matters, as I struggle to put this on its stand. Yeah, the result is what matters. This shuttle is rock solid and looks incredible. So if you've got kids or you're just looking for a big Marauder to display in a mock or something, then I would say congratulations, you have found it. And this is even durable enough to survive a somewhat bumpy car ride on the highway to my office to put on display there, which I can definitely not say about many other models I have reviewed. And again, just for scale, I'll toss up some comparison pictures too, but this is the official Bad Batch shovel. So quite the size difference there. Again, without substitutions, and for the ship and the stand, Bricklink returned 5 stores and $239 without shipping and tax, or about $284 with shipping and tax. If you leave out the interior pieces, my results went down to 5 stores and $212 without shipping and tax, or $252 including shipping and tax. Even though I'm generally not a huge fan of interiors, I think this one is really well done, especially if you've got the Bad Batch minifigures already. So I left them in, well, I recommend leaving them in, and without substitutions and including the interior, I leaned pretty heavily on Pick-a-Brick, and I was able to get my Pick-a-Brick cart to about $165 including tax, and that meant shipping was free. Using Bricklink for the rest of the pieces, I got 2 stores and $36 before shipping and tax, or about $48 including shipping and tax, and that brought the grand total to $213. That includes shipping and tax. I will say that using Pick-a-Brick was not as straightforward as it usually is, because if you try and get as much as possible from Pick-a-Brick, your overall total is going to be higher. So my advice is to run the Bricklink algorithm on everything, check each store and see if the most expensive pieces from each store are available from Pick-a-Brick. If they are, buying them directly from LEGO and remove them from your want list, then rerun the algorithm, and you can do this as many times as you want to, and slowly take away from Bricklink while hopefully reducing your store count along the way, and slowly working towards free shipping and handling from LEGO. There will be a link in the description to the Brickable page where you can buy the instructions if you so choose, and if you want to watch 2bricks' video review on his channel, I will link to that as well. Thanks as always for watching my review of 2bricks' Marauder. If you built this model, you have something to share that I left out, or have a question about something I didn't cover, please leave them below in the comments. Remember to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, or follow me on Instagram if you haven't already. I hope to see you back next time.